This piece was brought to you by Heritage Foods USA, heritagefoodsusa.com.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes, finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Had our number changed today, although I hate it too. But each time the phone would ring, they'd want to speak to you. And it hurts to tell them you're not here with me. Maybe then, oh, telephone will let me be. It's not in the book now, so you better write it down, just in case your love for me should ever come around. You may want to call and break the news to me. Just call Lonesome 77203. All right, Johnny. I keep the telephone beside me all the time, hoping you might want to call and say you change your mind. If you do, then darling, you know where I'll be. I'm at Lonesome 77203. You're the only one I'm giving our new number to. So if the phone should ring, well then I'll know it's you. You may want to call and have that love for me. I'm at Lonesome 77203. Just call Lonesome 77203.
Oh man, that was great. Jonny Lam and Friends, Jonny Lam and Co.
Honey Fingers.
Honey Fingers. Honey Fingers. Really amazing. I don't think I've ever seen a steel guitar played up close. I think I've only was kind of just like, it seemed like a little like magic watching from stage.
So what did you think?
It's awesome. It's kind of mesmerizing to watch. I still don't really quite understand the alchemy of it, but it's pretty great. Welcome to Snacky Tunes. I'm one half your host, Greg Bresnitz. Darren Bresnitz is in Florida, celebrating a birthday. But always in this place we have Carter Adams, co-host.
Glad to be back here.
We're
sharing.
We'll share. Yeah, we'll share.
It's important to hear the music.
There's a wine tasting that's going on out there. I literally saw Carter's eyes just like light up. You're like, oh, what do you feel like they're drinking out there?
It looks like we have 2 pet nats and some sort of German Riesling.
So, Tom, you can see why this is our like in-house wine expert.
Yeah.
Tom Mylan, welcome to Snacky Tunes.
Great to be here.
Really nice to have you on here. We are going to be talking about the Meat Book, which I really love as a name for a book. How'd you come up with the name?
Went with the most obvious option, I guess.
It's really exciting to have you on here. Big fan. Really love what you've done. I think I first met you when you were at Marlowe and Daughters.
Yeah.
back, and then when you covered in blood.
Oh,
with your
back
big,
in the day.
With your big tool belt, and Darren was like, "That's the man right there. That's the vegetarian turned butcher." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. That's pretty amazing." And since then, gone on to open Meat Hook. Sandwich Shop is doing well.
Yep, and Rippers.
Oh man, I was at Rippers yesterday. That is by far the best hot dog I've ever had.
I mean, we were there a couple weeks ago. We tried. There was literally like an hour plus wait for a burger.
I had my hot dog at 11 a.m. Because I knew I wasn't going to get it in the afternoon.
I don't even go out there anymore.
You can't. If you can't jump the line, the rest of us are fucked.
Yeah, no. I go out at dawn to pretend like I know how to surf, which I don't.
And then it's just an excuse to be first in line for the food.
I just go by and like say hey to everybody, like setting up, and then like go home.
It's chaos there. I can tell you that it's doing very well.
Yeah. I can equally tell you it's doing very, very, very well.
Turns out everybody loves Rockaway.
Everyone loves Rockaway. A lot of people just like rock. I mean, but it's kind of we spent the weekend out there, and it's like it's its own way of life. It's not New York. It's not anything. It's like the Rockaway vibe is like we stayed down on 59th Street, and it was like a whole other like.
Oh yeah.
Like
it's not New York City. It's something different.
Well, congratulations on the book.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really exciting. Let's talk about where did the inspiration come? I mean, like the world is full of cookbooks. So what was the inspiration, or what did you have to say that was different in this one than other meat or larger books like this?
Well, I mean, the inspiration really started. I mean, like I started to think about wanting to write this book before we even did Marlowe and Daughters or The Meat Hook or any of that, just because there weren't that many good books on butchering out there, or there were none that were like really contemporary. The only good meat book that was out there was at that point a relatively obscure book by Hugh Farley-Winningstall from the UK, and so I sort of got in my head that like okay, once I exceeded the threshold for bullshit motherfucker, and I actually could speak about it with authority, I wanted to write a book. And then and then life happened. We left Marlowe and Daughters, opened the Meat Hook. It took us about 2 years to get that in any sort of stable situation, and by the time I had enough mental space to actually go out and because it's not really about writing the book, it's really about doing the book proposal, which is a huge awful barrier to entry. I feel like it's like hazing to get you into the club of being able to even be thought of as an author, so by the time that happened, the landscape had changed a lot. There were already a lot of sort of real how-to textbooky kind of books out there, and I got kind of bummed out for a second. And then I was like, "Oh, great! I just get to do all the fun shit."
Right.
And it's at that point that it really coalesced as this sort of psychedelic love letter to sustainable meat and to the Meat Hook as a weird, strange entity in the world, and all of our various friends, including a small chapter on here at Roberta's.
So speaking of sustainable meat, every week there's some report that is coming out that beef is irresponsible or eating meat is, bad carbon footprint. What are the arguments that you put forth to being essentially modern day meat eater and how it fits into, climate change and where the world is heading?
When you're talking about cattle production or pig production or growing any sort of meat, there's two different worlds. It's apples and orangutans. There's the dominant, industrial meat production paradigm, which is, not sustainable, and is not in tune with either the way that the animals want themselves to exist in the world, and is also out of step with, out of step with the environment, and is actually making the environment a lot worse place to be. And then you have pasture raised stuff where they're raised, where all the animals are raised out on pasture, and especially the beef production thing is just it's a total fallacy. Yes, the global warming thing does apply to intensive cattle production where they're in CAFOs and they're being fed corn, which they never would eat in the normal, if they were just sort of, naturally out in nature. And you have, and it's not just the methane, but it's also all these massive amounts of ultra toxic, concentrated manure, these manure ponds,
Like
and
all the
that
runoff and everything like that. They just
Exactly.
the water supply.
Well, and not only does that, so that runs off and it gets absorbed in the ground, and with that liquid, the mechanical water that's coming out of those manure ponds is going into the ground and into our water supply, our groundwater supply, all kinds of steroids and hormones and God knows what, which is, making, using antibiotics becoming, like not very useful. That's you have all these people that have these staph, infections they get from hospitals, and they like eat their leg and stuff because you can't treat them with conventional antibiotics anymore, and that's almost purely because of animal husbandry.
How do you find your partners, your suppliers? What is the process of going to make sure that they keep it sustainable, they keep it, animals in like a healthy mindset, and that it's responsible?
Well, I mean, we find everybody we were lucky because we were working for Andrew Tarlow and Mark Firth, and we were there at the sort of dawn of the Brooklyn sort of farm to table, at least as far as the meat part went, and we got to get different animals from like 35 different farms, and then we actually got to go out and visit a number of these different farms, and and then it just sort of coalesced from there. We sort of cherry picked the ones that we really liked when we opened the meat hook, and then we sort of expanded from there. And there's kind of like the upstate internet. It's it's basically like, hey, I'm looking for this. You ask one of your farmers, or actually the main switchboard of the upstate internet is really the slaughterhouse guys.
Right.
So you bring them a case of beer and a couple bottles of whiskey, and you're like, hey, I'm looking for this, and they're like, oh, I got a guy.
What are some of the things that you'd be looking for?
Well, I mean, one of the very specific things, like we don't do lamb, we call it lamb, because if you call something mutton or hogget, people get very confused.
I don't think I've ever heard hogget.
Yeah, so it's in between basically like yearling lamb and mutton, which is like over 2.5 years old or something like that. It depends on who you talk to and if you're in Britain or the United States, but it doesn't matter. But what we look for is hair sheep as opposed to curly wool sheep, because hair sheep don't produce lanolin, and we look for those as mutton or hogget. Which means they're older, they have a lot more intermuscular fat, which means they're a lot juicier, they have a much fuller flavor, but they're not gamey and, rammy or muttony or whatever, because they lack the gene that produces lanolin, because they have hair instead of wool. So that's a very specific thing that we look for that's very difficult to find.
Is it out there?
Oh, it's out there, but you have to. I mean, you're not going to find it by Googling around. You know what I mean? You have to
they're like,
know a guy.
We know a guy. Meet at the underground parking lot.
Yeah, you have to
meet at the silo at 3 a.m.
Exactly, you have to use the hood internet in upstate New York.
Have they also equally tried to like push additional cuts on you? Like, oh, have you ever thought about using this part or like these animals, and like they've educated you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've learned a tremendous amount about animal husbandry and like where the upstate farming business and animal husbandry and all this stuff is really headed in a practical way. But as far as cuts, I mean, we get in whole animals, so we're dealing with pretty much everything, nose to tail, whether we want to or not. And really, the challenge is we can choose not to figure out what to do with something, but we still have to pay for it and then throw it away.
Right.
So it definitely puts an onus on us to like use every single part.
Have there been any eureka moments, or what are some of the eureka moments in like the farm, in the nose to tail movement? Like, fuck, I can't believe that actually worked. That actually tasted good.
It's actually not a whole lot of like, oh, I can't believe that tasted good. It's mostly like, really the aha moment was really, oh, people in New York really like their dogs, and so a big portion of like when you get a pig, about 10 to 15% of the weight of that pig is like the skin on the outside, which people in the United States don't like pork chops with the skin on the outside or pork roast with the skin on the outside, even though they're super delicious. So we have to figure out, like, what the fuck do we do with, like, this 150 pounds of pork skin we get a week. And so we've just started twisting it up and dehydrating it. That was actually one of our main cutters who now, he's down in Charlottesville, Virginia, and they've opened their own butcher shop sort of on the meat hook tip. And that's been a huge thing, because it's like, oh, you can take this thing that we used to throw away and now charge like $1 a piece for like these little like twisty dehydrated dog chew toys,
That's pretty great. Before we play a song, you want to shout out some of your farms, your people,
yeah.
your network?
Yeah, my upstate hood internet.
Or you want to keep it in your pocket? So
No. I mean, no, they're all great guys, and I mean, we don't sign contracts with any of these guys. It's all handshake, and we've been doing business for a long time with these people. But yeah, I'd say Lee in Georgia at Kinderhook Farm, Dustin Gibson of Gibson Farm up in Eagle Bridge. The nicest man that ever lived, Bruce Conover at Sir William Berkshire up in Curryville. I'm forgetting some other. Hardwick Co-op. They slaughter at the D-Backs place. It's a family-owned slaughterhouse in Troy, Pennsylvania. They're all great people.
That's great. So we're gonna play a quick song, and then we're gonna come back, talk to Tom more about the book, International Butchery at Different Cuts, and just a little bit more about getting inside the animal. Love that song. Welcome back to Snacky Tunes. We have Tom Mylan, author of the Meat Hook, Meat Book. One of the things that I really like about the book is it talks about how different cuts of animals are viewed differently from around the world, particularly tongue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like everything weird, huge in Japan.
Well, I mean, actually, my grandmother is Hungarian, and like tongue was like a big part of what she liked to cook, like tongue sandwiches.
Right.
But I don't know if we ever were like, oh my god, like this delicacy. It was just that they kind of just liked it. But when I was reading that, Japanese are just like love the like tongue base, if you will.
Yeah.
What are some of the other like?
But as a steak instead
Yeah.
of something that you brine and then like simmer,
Right.
Oh, crazy. I mean, I would have to say that when I go to Korean barbecue, tongue is definitely...
Oh, man,
it's
so
so
good.
good. It's
Yeah.
really good. I don't think I can... it has to be sliced pretty thin, because otherwise I kind of think about it too much. But
yeah, it can be. It's definitely.
It's so good.
It seems like you're eating tongue a little bit.
It's scary looking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a beast. I don't know. There was the Breslin used to do like a tongue sandwich where they just didn't hide the fact, and it was like okay until like one day I looked down and I just kind of psyched myself out a little bit. But it was traditional about that. What are some like the other international cuts that don't necessarily translate here, but just you've learned from your studies that are delicacies or more elevated?
I mean, nothing. Well, I mean, beef heart is a huge thing that we really like. Basically, if you and that's just something that we just sort of discovered. It's not necessarily like there's different cultures that do like usually like a steak and kidney pie or something like that, or like a beef heart stew or something. But a lot of the cuts are actually just cuts that are normally not eaten as a steak or a chop or whatever, and they're they're just basically ground up into ground beef in the United States. There's basically here. There's maybe, 10 sort of like well-recognized cuts of steak. Well, probably less, actually. And at our shop, we have like 20, because we're digging out every single part from, especially the shoulder. There's just a ton of stuff from the shoulder that is really good, like really tender. Like the calf muscle, for instance, there's a recipe in there for, I think it's called heel two ways or something. But one of them is as a grilled thing, and you just... you'd think that it coming from the shank, it would be really tough and gross and whatever. But if you actually like seam it out, it's really lovely, and it's like really lean and super good rare, and doesn't have any sort of that organ-y flavor that kind of turns people off. I'm not a big organ guy, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. No.
I'm surprised to hear that.
I mean, beef heart, pig heart, veal heart, lamb heart, that kind of thing. Lamb liver is actually really great. Chicken livers are great, but other than that, the kidneys
not
and all
through
that.
the brains.
I mean, the brains taste good, but again, it's one of those things where, like, if you have more than a couple bites and you start thinking about it too hard, it kind of like squeezes you out a little bit.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Like if I don't know, it's like tongue. If it's sliced thin and everything, and they told me it was something else, I'd think it was something else. But then the minute you think about it, well, you're like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that kind of stuff is like 50%, is it prepared properly so it's not gross? And then the other 50% is really just cultural programming. Like, what were we brought up on,
Right.
I wasn't brought up on any of that shit,
No,
So-
I mean, you were vegetarian. To go from vegetarian to...
Well, I wasn't
cowboy.
brought up vegetarian.
Yeah.
I just went vegetarian for like, it was college. What do you do?
Yeah.
What else are you going to do? How else are you going to woo women in the late 90s?
Oh, yeah, I'm vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, it sounds, for how late you got kind of started in life for eating meat, and I'm sure, like, the butchery was not immediate, what are some of the tips that you give to people or you talk about in the book about starting to pick up knife skills?
I mean, there's some knife skills as far as butchering goes that, like, will keep you from getting carpal tunnel and keep you from, like, belly sticking yourself. They're pretty like broad concepts. They're basically like, make sure that your knife is sharp, have the right kind of knife, let the knife do the work. A lot of people sort of, have a dull knife and they do this herky-jerky motion and don't understand that you're supposed to use the motion of the whole blade to like make the cuts, and that just reduces the wear and tear on your wrist and hand, but also makes you significantly less likely to cut yourself. Which is something that I learned the hard way.
Yeah, what's the worst?
I mean, the worst as far as like the grossest thing to me personally is
Wonderful.
like 3 Christmases ago. It was Christmas Eve, and so we used to work basically like 10 days straight, 12 hours a day going into Christmas. Thank God we don't have to do that anymore. And I was just deboning something for an order, and my knife slipped, and it went in by the top knuckle of my thumb and went under the skin, this boning knife, and then came out right at the base of my nail.
Okay, you just lost about how many listeners right now?
Yeah, it didn't really bleed a whole lot, but I am just now getting the feeling back in my thumb.
Wow, okay.
Really, that's probably the worst as far as like personal discomfort and just like really being like, I'm going to go throw up now. Yeah. Just sort of like wrapping your hand in a towel and just being like, I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick and just because I have to throw up.
And my question changes the subject completely. What is the what's the most underrated thing out there? You were talking about lamb, or like in 5 years, looking at the forecast and looking at like things that are sustainable and yummy and everything. Like, what are we not eating that you think we should be and that people don't really recognize?
Oh wow. I guess it really depends on the region, because every sort of different environment has a different sort of like unsung animal kind of thing. I really think that the advancements in rotational grazing actually of rabbits. So like right now, most rabbits are raised in these like little hutches that are stacked on top of one another, and it's like kind of it's kind of a gross system. They're in just like these little cages. Yeah. But there's a number of people that are actually figuring out ways to do them much the same way that we're doing pasture-raised chickens. So it's very infrastructure light. It costs like a fraction of what it costs to build these hutches and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like a big like 20 by 20 by like 2 feet high like mesh box with like a little feeder and then like a little water, and then you basically like a couple times a day you just pick it up and very slowly drag it over to the next spot with
like
fresh
new grass. Huh.
Exactly. And as long as there's new grass, the rabbits won't burrow under, because that's the big thing. That's why they're kept in hutches, is because usually they
want more food.
They want more grass, and so they'll burrow under if you try to like do it like you would any sort of conventional thing. And honestly, like if you were to put grass-fed cattle in a paddock where you didn't move them enough, they do the same thing. They'll jump over those fences or run right through them if they're just like, fuck, dude, can we get some grass? Yeah. So it makes sense. So I think that'll be one of those things, especially because you don't really have to, you can only feed them like, a minimal amount of grain, and they'll get the rest of it from all the various vegetation. You just have to move them a little bit more often. So I think that'll be bringing down the price and bringing up the animal welfare of rabbits. And there's a place in New Jersey that's actually doing hare, which is the sort of large, strange-looking, gawky British version of like what we know as rabbit here.
The big rabbit.
Yeah, and it has a completely different flavor, and but it only really maintains that flavor if it's actually like raised out in grass. So I think that you'll be seeing more and more of hare probably like 5-6 years from now, maybe sooner.
There you go.
Because a big thing is market differentiation. If you're like just getting started, like it's a good place to be like, oh, you're the hare guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Word gets around the restaurant internet in New York, and it's like, oh, dude, I got the hare guy.
Right, but it also seems like the difference between rabbit and hare is enough that like people don't come with these preconceived notions like they would for grass-fed versus corn-raised beef. Because how many people eat rabbit on a regular basis?
Well, sure, yeah.
So like you're kind of starting from zero, which is nice.
Exactly.
Speaking of the thing, even right now, like what are some of the cuts that you feel like are unsung heroes? And every couple years, someone's like, oh, we found like a new piece of cow or a new piece of like the chicken or something turkey. It's like there's no way that you found. It's like, what is something that like actually this is pretty good? I've seen this, I've tried this, or have they all been kind of like had their day in the sun? I mean,
amazingly they haven't. I mean, basically the way that the restaurant cycle works with those cuts is like you get like a chef that has a fair amount of butchering knowledge and understands how the musculature of the animal works, which is actually kind of what I've built into the book in a sort of like really janky sort of Da Vinci Code is hopefully by the time you've read it, you'll have like that kind of a basic understanding like that of how meat works. But they'll sort of look through the price sheet of like, okay, so what is dirt cheap? You know, it's like a couple years ago it was oxtails, a couple years before that it was short ribs. You know, it's constantly going to be, you know, pigtails, pig heads, like all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that the only real territory left is probably beef shank. I mean, that's still really inexpensive. It's like, I think, cheaper than bone marrow, which is weird. The bone marrow kind of jumped the shark. Like, I mean, that's probably all Gabrielle Hamilton, I think.
It's 100% her.
It is. I mean, I was just qualifying it just not to make people mad, but no, it's all her. She did it. Like, Prune did that way before anybody else made when I first moved to New York like 12 years ago, somebody was like the first thing when I had a conversation about food, they were just like, "Oh, you have to go to Prune," and I was like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, I think shank. I don't know. There's not a whole lot left at this point. I mean, hopefully beef heart, all the hearts. I think those will come on because they are really delicious. You just have to treat them properly, and that's another thing that chefs are looking for is something like if you actually know how to prepare them properly, they're actually like really, really good. It's not like you're trying to gold leaf a dog turd, like, you know, a lot of, you know, these like places that do like a lot of offal. It's really difficult to get the offal that's fresh enough that, you know, and then treat it properly to make it actually taste good and have a texture that like the average, you know, diner, even in New York, who has, you know, is a better diner than most places, is going to be like, yes, awesome, thank you.
Right. And then last question is, what is your favorite cut? Any animal, prison meal, last day. What cut of animal are you getting?
I mean,
whole animal kingdom.
Sushi.
No, I mean it's not far from there. I mean, I have to say, like, my desert island, you know, death row meal is 2 99-cent bean and cheese burritos from Del Taco with extra cheese.
Wow.
Extra cheese and extra green sauce. I mean, honestly, like when I'm really depressed, like, and you know, super hungover or whatever, and like I'm home alone, like that's what I do. I go to the store and I spend all day making refried beans from scratch with like a ton of lard, and then make myself a bean and cheese burrito. I mean, and you know, I'll make the green sauce from scratch from like the frozen Hatch chilies in the freezer. But I mean, like a bean and cheese burrito for me, it's like I
like it.
I'd rather eat that than a steak 9 times out of 10. It just takes a lot more labor.
I like it. And that chapter is coming in the next book.
Yeah. It's actually I'm actually kicking around the idea of doing sort of like the indigenous foods of America of the 20th century kind of thing, where it's like Tex-Mex and like different types of barbecue and all that kind of stuff.
It's pretty amazing. All right, well, Tom, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
The Meat Book. Out on Artisan, pick it up. And what cities are you going to next on tour?
Yeah, so starting the end of this coming week, I will be in Madison, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, and I'll end it in Austin, Texas. So if you're in and around, if you want to see those dates, you can actually go to the-meathook.com, and the dates are right on the front page, I think. Okay. But there's somewhere on there. And there's all the information about that if you live in any of those cities. Please come and say hi.
Yeah. Is the road a lonely place for a butcher?
It's so lonely.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, well...
Fortunately, there are burritos.
Yeah, there are burritos everywhere. All right, well, Honeyfingers, you guys ready to play another song?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have Honeyfingers live in studio, and then we're back to talk with them about all things steel pedal and just fucking being amazing musicians here on Snacky Tunes.
What key?
Let's do this one in C, Johnny. Ain't that funny what you do to me? You're my honey, as far as I can see. And you told me that you found someone new. Ain't it funny what time can do? ain't that funny.
Ain't that funny?
What you do?
What you do?
It ain't that funny, 'cause I'm so blue. I could love a million girls or two, but I'll never be over you. I'd give you all of my money, a car or two. I'd pay your rent, well, I'd even steal for you. I could break the law, commit a crime or two. Ain't it funny what love can do? Yeah, ain't that funny?
Ain't that funny?
What you do?
What you do?
It ain't that funny, 'cause I'm so blue. I could win $1,000,000 or two, but I'll never be over you. Oh, one more time, Johnny. I'm gonna hit every bar in this doggone town, have a smoke, pop a pill or two, drink some whiskey and eat a big old steak too. Ain't it funny what love can do? Yeah, ain't that funny?
Ain't that funny?
What you do?
What you do?
It ain't that funny, 'cause I'm so blue. I could drink 1,000,000 beers or two, but I'll never be over you. I think I'll have a drink with a girl named Sue, but I'll never be over you. I added the old steak line in there. I had to do that one.
It's great.
Keep on topic.
That's an original that Zeph wrote.
Yeah. It's called Ain't That Funny.
Well, welcome to the show. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
My name's Jonny Lam. We have Tim Lunsell on the upright bass and Zeph and O'Hara singing those songs.
Johnny and I met a few months back, when you were out in LA, or also in London for the William Wanibar show, and just kind of kept running into each other. And I really am like, the steel guitar is still kind of like a mystical instrument. You're the first steel guitar player we've had.
No, wait, I have to interject. It's a pedal steel guitar, actually.
This
right?
one is a pedal steel
Yeah.
guitar.
Okay.
I also love being everyone's first. So
Wow. Never forget. How did you get into the instrument? Which I know is probably like how everyone asks that question, because it's not that common, at least not in the world that I exist in.
well, I'm not from Hawaii, like everyone always thinks.
Despite the Hawaiian shirt that you're wearing right now. You're really trying, like, what gives you that impression, guys? Come on.
I guess like I'm a Chinese kid from like the suburbs of northern New Jersey, and I somehow managed to like start playing in like every guitar player in Brooklyn, like playing in like some kind of alt country band, like 7 or 8 years ago. And then I was like, oh, I can like do those things on guitar kind of, and then I bought a pedal steel, and then began my dark journey.
Yeah, where has that journey taken you?
I don't know. It's taken me in my living room in my underwear practicing pedal steel all day long. I guess that's it.
Yeah, but I mean, you've played with some, you're being modest, you've played with some pretty great names.
Well, actually, I got a surprise phone call from Tim last year, and I ended up doing a couple tracks on the Norah Jones, Billy Joe Armstrong, Everly Brothers record that Tim did every single thing. He played bass on, and it was amazing.
Wow.
That was great.
That's great. And how did the three of you meet?
I met Tim through my girlfriend, and we ended up knowing a lot of the same people, and it took him a little while to get warmed up to me. And Zephaniah, he saw me play steel, and I guess we bonded over like classic steel guitar stuff.
Is there a rash of steel pedal guitar players in New York, or is it like a good drummer? Like, it's hard to find.
It's
There's a lot more good drummers. We'll see.
Really?
There's more steel guitar players that are good than there are fiddle players, I think. And,
Wait, okay, so what's the hierarchy? So everyone
Singers first.
Singers, yeah.
right,
Okay, singers.
good singers, right?
Yeah.
And then
Quantity?
in quantity.
Yeah.
Probably more good guitar players.
Oh, right. There's a million good guitar
Okay,
players.
million good guitar players because everyone wants to play lead.
There's, I guess, are there a lot of good drummers?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good drummers.
What about like dulcimers? How many dulcimer players are there out there?
There's a lot in Bushwick, I'm pretty sure. They
And, like-
play 6-string banjos while they're at it. Too.
I've seen a lot of that.
And theremin
I don't know if
players.
they're good though.
So where do you sit in the
I
hierarchy?
mean, you can probably. I feel like there's probably less than 20 pedal steel guitar players.
I feel
in
like
New
this
York,
is like
and
Tom is like your mutton guy. Like you're not gonna find it googling the internet. You gotta get it. Oh, I've got my steel guy.
Yeah.
Well, like I've played guitar for my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm pretty good at guitar, I guess, right? I've been doing it a long time, and then, but everyone still, I'm just like, oh, that Chinese steel guitar player
Right. Who's not from Hawaii?
who's not from Hawaii.
So how did you guys decide to form the band or kind of take this route?
Well, Zeph and I, right? We basically every time we would run into each other, it was like this conversation about starting a classic country band, and I started doing this instrumental project called Honey Fingers, which is like a steel guitar Telecaster, crazy fast, cartoony country music band, instrumental, and we decided to then back up Zeph with the addition of a drummer, and the rest is Skinny Dennis history. I
So did
guess.
you leave the drummer home today?
Yeah, it was just
Basically, I was working at Skinny Dennis, and I was hosting a night where I was DJing country records, and then booked them to play, and then we actually played for the first time ever for a George Jones birthday celebration, and yeah, it's been great ever since.
Wow, that's not nothing.
Yeah,
Playing
that's-
did George Jones like it? What was it like to play for George Jones?
Oh no, and we had I threw like a birthday party.
I
bash.
thought you meant like you're.
I
like,
wish.
I'm going to his birthday to play for him.
Oh man, I would love to, but it'd
Awesome.
be nerve wracking.
Do you guys want to play another song?
Sure.
Do you want to do one of yours, or do you want to?
Yeah, let's do a brand new one. Why not?
All right.
This is a brand new one called "This Highway." It's in the key of E. If you want to hum along. One, two, 1, 2, 3. Let's try that again. His steel is nervous. Ready, 1, a 2, a 1. This highway keeps going on and on, and time keeps moving right along. I pray for good weather and for a peaceful ride. And this highway keeps going on and on. I spent 30 or more years on this road. I have many, many stories still untold. A man can never know when it's his time to go, and this highway keeps going on and on.
The wind's blowing soft and cool across my face, and my mind wanders back to that old place. Nothing ever lasts, it's just a moment in the past. And this highway keeps going on and on. Sometimes I stop and wonder just where I'm headed to. And this highway keeps going on and on. And this highway keeps going on and on.
So great. I feel like the country lends itself more to playing covers and recognizing its heroes and past almost more than any other genre. So how do you guys pick what songs you're going to cover in a night, or how do you kind of build up that?
I mean, in the old days, most of the people that were country singers, they weren't even songwriters, you know. Mm-hmm. So they had a lot of really great songwriters in Nashville that were basically writing the songs, and as long as you had a great song and you were a face, then you could basically make a career out of it. Nowadays, I think it's a little different. Now you have to do all of it, basically. But how we pick songs, I mean, that's the nice thing, is that it's the genre is kind of even if you sing someone else's song and you play it pretty straightforward the same way they did it, you're adding your own kind of touch to it, just in the fact that you're playing it yourself. So we just pick the ones that we love, I suppose.
What are some of the favorites?
Well, I think our first conversation was about a very famous steel guitar player, Jerry Bird, who played on the early Hank Williams stuff. He ended up moving to Hawaii. He's from Ohio, and
good move.
Yeah, at some point
he wins.
He was like, well, I guess he's like the Howley guy that moved to Hawaii and had a good time for the rest of his life, you know.
Yeah, you mean it's the best decision he's ever made.
Yeah.
And then from there, where to kind of evolve into who?
Well, they're the band that Johnny has had for a while is Honey Fingers, which is named after a song that the Texas Troubadours, who backed up Ernest Tubb, are really famous for. So with that, we just decided doing a bunch of Ernest Tubb tunes and sort of sticking in that mid-'60s era that we probably like the best.
Are there any that are difficult to cover or just kind of hard to represent? Is it all pretty
nightlife?
There's a lot of tunes that are really similar to each other, but there's a couple tunes that are you get into that country politan kind of sound, that jazzy kind of thing, those early Willie Nelson tunes, because Willie was a songwriter for 20 years, almost 15 years before 70s Outlaw Willie.
Right.
You know. So those get a kind of, they're not funny, but they're just not in the standard country vernacular. They're they stand alone as these pieces. If anyone's familiar with Wichita Lineman, that song kind of comes out of left field,
Right.
I'm going to ask if you guys can play a cover.
Okay.
Is there anything you guys got prepared?
Yeah, we have.
Of course. Let's do you want to do a Ray Price?
Yeah, I love Ray Price.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Willie Nelson was actually in Ray Price's band too for a long time. I think that's kind of how he got his start.
Crazy Arms?
Yeah.
We had Super Simple.
Yeah.
Fuck it. He's gonna do it off book.
In E.
What do we do? 1511?
So Walker.
Yeah. Shuffle.
You want to do 1511?
1511. 151.
All right. 1, a 2, a 1, 2. Now blue ain't the
There's a storm that's brewing in this heart of mine. This ain't no crazy dream, I know that it's real. You're someone else's love now, you're not mine. Crazy arms that reach to hold somebody new, while my yearning heart keeps saying you're not mine. My trouble might know soon to another you'll be wed, and that's why I'm lonely all the time. So please take the treasured dreams I had for you and me. Take all the love I thought was mine. Someday these crazy arms will hold somebody new. But right now I'm so lonely I could die. Crazy arms that reach to hold somebody new, while my yearning heart keeps saying you're not mine. My trouble might know soon to another you'll be wed, and that's why I'm lonely all the time. And that's why I'm lonely all the time.
You did great off book. You did amazing.
Really good.
Ray Price would have been proud.
Yeah. I kind of feel it's just, let's go walking. Which is, I always thought it was a joke, but then you guys just talked about going walking, and there it is. So where can people come and catch you guys playing?
We've been playing a lot of Tuesdays at Skinny Dennis. It's our regular night, but I ended up on tour a lot. So we're playing this Tuesday, and then you can usually catch us instrumentally on Saturdays at the gin distillery, the Shanty in Williamsburg. Mm-hmm. So, if you like country music, honeyfingersmusic.com or JonnyLam.com has all those.
Just
has all those dates.
Look up Zeph and I on Facebook.
Yeah.
I just started a page. like my page.
Like me, if you will. How do you guys why do you decide to go vocals / or instrumental? Or where do you kind of draw the line for the nights?
When we play at Skinny Dennis, it's with Zeph singing. So we do a couple instrumentals like the way Ernest did. Ernest Tubb used to do it. It would be a bunch of vocal tunes, and then every now and again he would feature the band, And so we do the similar thing. And on Saturdays it's just, it's a smaller ensemble, and it's a almost totally different sound. It's like kind of a, it's 4 guys, no drummer. Does that make any sense? No. It's 2 guitar players, a steel guitar player, and a bass player. So
got it. Cool. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on. I want to make sure I get one more song in. So any more other ways to find you guys, track you guys, dates, etc.?
I mean, I guess that's it, right? Find me. Ask people about the long-haired Asian steel guitar player.
Yeah, that's not from Hawaii.
That's not from Hawaii.
Great. Well, Carter, I want to thank you for joining.
Always a pleasure.
Tom, thank you as well.
Great to be here.
Enjoy the second half of the book tour. Hopefully you get upstate. this
Hopefully,
summer.
yeah,
Hopefully
God,
get upstate this
yeah.
summer.
What are we playing?
We will be back next week with episode 199, and then in 2 weeks we will have episode 200.
Ooh, party time.
With Mom and Dad. Make sure that also mark your calendars. We have the last barbecue blowout of the summer coming up. It's going to be on a Wednesday, August 13th. We have Sushi Co. as the guest chef, so if you go to BBQ Blowout August 2014.eventbrite.com. Make sure to get your tickets. We're only doing a limited amount this time, and I guarantee that one's going to sell out.
Sounds amazing.
It's going to be great music.
Yeah, it's going to be great music. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be great. What are you guys going to take us out with?
I think we're going to take you out with an Invitation to the Blues, another Ray Price tune.
It's another Ray Price one.
Thank you, Ray Price.
What key do we do this one in? E flat.
It was actually written by Roger Miller, I believe.
Are you guys going to go walking?
Yeah, we're going to go walk.
Timmy's going to take this space for a walk.
A little bit of a walk. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week.
Can you do it in D?
Yeah.
We can do it in D.
Cool.
Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I couldn't sleep last night, just walked the floor. Don't know how I'll stand this anymore. Lonely all the time since I lost you. Received your invitation to the blues. Oh, I don't know why you caused me such pain. I just hope I never go through this much again. Thanks for sending something I can't use. Received your invitation to the blues. You took the laughter from this world of mine. Thanks to you, the sun will never shine. Walk the floor so much, wore out my shoes. Receive your invitation to the blues. Oh, I don't know why you caused me such pain. I just hope I'll never go through this much again. Thanks for sending something I can't use. Received your invitation to the blues. Received your invitation to the blues.
We talk about food, we talk about music with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Thanks for listening to this program on heritageradionetwork.org. You can find all of our archive programs on our website or as podcasts in the iTunes store by searching Heritage Radio Network. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at heritage_radio. You can email us questions anytime at info@heritageradionetwork.org. Heritage Radio Network is a 501c3 non-profit. To donate and become a member, visit our website today. Thanks for listening.